It really doesn't matter about business or what's going on. Like, you have to be yourself and you have to speak up for what's important and you have to be vulnerable. This is where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing, and we all need to be speaking up. And that's really my hope, is to encourage others to speak up as well.
For many people in the world, there is a moment of clarity when you see the world differently than you saw it previously. Those are the moments when we wake up to life. I'm Rabbi Josh Bennett, and this is Waking Up to Life, a podcast about those moments. Welcome to Waking Up to Life with Rabbi Josh, a podcast built around conversations with people in the community who have found a bit of enlightenment in their lives. While these events may not seem life-changing to you, for all of my guests, these stories have really changed the way they see the world. And along with a little bit of insight from Jewish tradition, we may change your life as well. And if not, it's just 18 minutes with me. So, l'chaim, to life. Today, I am so happy to welcome Lindsay Pinchuk to the show. Lindsay is the founder and CEO of a marketing and consulting company called Lindsay Pinchuk Marketing and Consulting, and Dear found her. Previous to that engagement, she is the founder of the Bump Club and Beyond, which is a parenting community for new moms. And I'm so happy to have you on the show.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, Lindsay, you grew up here in Michigan. You moved your life and your family to Chicago. And along the way, you have made a name for yourself in the world of marketing, and you've done an enormous amount of good in the world. So share with us a little bit about your story and the moment where you had an awakening.
So I live in Chicago now, but I am a Detroiter at heart, that is for sure. And I started a company in 2010, which I built. It was Bump Club and Beyond, and I built that company to reach 3 million people around the country. And I sold that company. That company was amazing for me because I was helping moms and parents, and I got so much out of that. I got so much out of watching parents come into their own, and then also watching the communities form of these parents that were coming to my events that I was holding and they were joining us online, and all of a sudden they were doing things in real life without me, which was amazing. And so with that, I always had a platform. Bump Club and Beyond was my platform, but I always had Lindsay Pinchuk as well. And I've always been active on social media. I've always spoken out for any and everyone. I mean, when I had Bump Club and Beyond, I was speaking out about vaccinations. I was speaking out about breastfeeding. I was speaking out for minority communities. Always. We had a very, very diverse community at Bump Club and Beyond, and that's something I'm very, very proud of. When I would look out into the audience of the families that attended our events, it truly was like a Benetton ad. And I was very, very proud of that it wasn't just people like me who were coming to these events. And so I always kind of did what was right on social media. And even to the point that when that company was acquired and I was speaking up for Black Lives Matter on our social media, the acquiring company actually did not like it, and they told me to take it down, and I fought tooth and nail to keep it up. And so I'm just kind of painting the picture of the fact that even though I was helping parents and, working with stroller companies and retailers and whatnot in that everyday of mine, I really and truly am a people person, and I am all about doing what's best and doing what's right by everyone. And so fast forward, I left that company after it was acquired, and I started Dear Found Her, which is my podcast, and Lindsay Pinchuk Marketing and Consulting. And I mainly started it to help other women and other female founders to grow their businesses. And so here I am, I'm 2 years in as of last fall. And all I want is to continue helping women grow and succeed. And as a business owner, when you speak out about anything that's controversial, that could have repercussions. It's never been something that I've worried about, and I still don't worry about it. But my aha moment and the big enlightenment really took place on October 8th. So after everything happened on October 7th in Israel, oddly, I kind of watched a little bit unfold in real time. I stay up really late. I usually go to bed really early on Friday nights. And Friday the 6th, I happened to be up kind of late and I started seeing things go on. And when I woke up on October 7th, obviously we knew a lot more about what had happened in Israel and what was going on. And I couldn't put into words what I wanted to say on social media. And so actually what I did was I shared a picture of me and two of my best friends who also grew up in your congregation, Risa Heller and Lindsay Albenberg, in front of the Kotel in Israel. And I just wrote, praying for Israel. And as the day went on and we kept finding out more and more about what was happening, obviously my feelings about what was going on really were churning inside of me. And I knew that I had to say something more profound. And so on October 8th, when I was grocery shopping, I stopped, I was in my car, and I put up a reel. And I basically said, this is how the Holocaust started. And I went on the March of the Living in 1997. It was the first trip that the Detroit community took out. Rabbi Yadwab was on that trip with us. And I said, and I know that this is how the Holocaust started. And we need to be using our voices right now. We need to be standing up. And it was a 3-minute reel. And I didn't really think much about it, to be very honest. And I posted it. And by the time I had gotten home, the reel had been seen, I don't know, maybe like 100,000 times. And it was very clear in that moment that most within the Jewish community were feeling the same way I was. And I was not alone in how I was feeling. I was getting a lot of people saying, thank you so much for saying this. I can't really find my words. And so I just kept talking. And I have been talking almost every day about what's going on, not just in Israel, but around the world with anti-Semitism, with the Jewish community since October 8th, essentially. And the aha for me was that it really doesn't matter about business or what's going on. Like, you have to be yourself and you have to speak up for what's important and you have to be vulnerable. My mom, in typical like Jewish mom fashion, like a month in was like, oh, Lindsay, like she was really like tiptoeing around me and she was like, have you lost any business? And I said to her, no, I've actually gained a lot of business. And since October 8th, my Instagram platform has more than tripled. And I am now doing projects within the Jewish community. I'm speaking around the country. I'm helping entities like Tablet Magazine. And I have a lot of Jewish businesses that are hiring me because they know they can trust me. So even though I lost about 5,000 followers, it didn't matter. Like, the aha was like, you can never compromise yourself. And this was the time in terms of speaking up where it was different because it was about me and it was about my community and my family, and it wasn't on behalf of someone else. And so I would not change a thing. People ask me all the time, because I do get a lot of hate. People ask me all the time, like, would you change, like, would you go back and not be like this? And I said, absolutely not. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing. And we all need to be speaking up. And that's really my hope, is to encourage others to speak up as well.
It's amazing to hear you tell this story, because as an outsider looking into your story, you actually were already teaching this to your early clients with Baby Bump and Beyond. You were teaching new parents to advocate for themselves and create community for themselves. So why did it take you so long to learn the lessons that you were already sharing?
You know, I don't think it took so long to learn those lessons. Like, I did speak out for the Jewish community, for example, in 2021, when like all the blue squares and there was a rise in anti-Semitism. Like, I've always spoken up, but I think there just wasn't a need as great as there was, or an event as monumental as what happened on October 7th. And I've always showed up on social media and sharing things about myself, and I do pull back the curtains, but I think this was like really pulling back the curtains. And it really was an aha that maybe I wasn't pulling back the curtains as much as I thought I was previously.
So there is obviously, for people who have watched any of your Instagram feeds or reels, there is an aggressiveness about the messaging, right? You tell it like it is, but you also tell it with a sense of purpose. Do you believe that non-softened messaging is a better way to get it out there? And if so, why?
I do. I think it's very relatable. I think right now people are very angry. People are mad. And the one thing that I get a lot of feedback all the time, but I would say like top 2 or 3 things that people say often to me is, you're saying exactly what I think, so thank you. You stay so even-keeled. I don't know how you do it. And even though I am aggressive in what I say, I very rarely raise my voice. Every now and then I'll use a profane word.
I mean animated, right?
Yes.
It's not aggressive in a negative way, but it's an animated messaging system.
Yes, but it's like I am saying what people are thinking, and they appreciate that. And I think that, oftentimes you think something and you wonder like, oh, are other people thinking this too? And 9 times out of 10, they are. And so this really has proven the point to me that people really need more people saying these things because they're thinking them and they don't know how to put it out into the world. And so for them, when I say something that they agree with, oftentimes what happens is they share it because they're like, this is how I feel too. I just can't verbalize it.
Yeah, it's interesting because as I hear you talking about this in the context of Temple Israel, which is a Zionist congregation built around the idea of Zionist, Rabbi Leon Fromm of blessed memory created Temple Israel to support a new and growing Zionism in America. Taking it away from that, your previous business and your current experience with Dear Found Her is exactly about empowering people whose voices aren't being heard. And I can't help but draw a parallel between the Jewish community as a minority, but also women as a minority or as an undervalued people in the modern world. Talk about how it affects women in the same way as from your experience.
Just, you mean speaking up? So it's funny because as in the parenting community, like when I started Bump Club and Beyond, you have to remember it was 2010. There was no social media. So women's voices were, it was very different as to, blogging was big, but there was no social media. And it really wasn't until we had Facebook and Instagram that more women and moms started really like showing up and speaking out. And I will say that when I started Bump Club, it really helped to give these moms like not just a platform online or whatever, but in person to connect with other women in a very, I guess, safe space. And I think it's very intimidating sometimes as like a mom, you like don't have any mom friends and you show up somewhere and, but the space that I always created for these women was like, you come alone, and people did come alone. And it was something that I promoted heavily. Like, you don't need a friend or a pal to come to this. And it was funny because I haven't thought about this in a while, but as time went on with Bump Club, about 5 or 6 years in, I saw this generational shift, and women started asking me if their husbands could come too. And so we said, okay, obviously, and some women would bring their husbands. And I think from an informational standpoint, that was really important, but it really changed the dynamic of the community and the outcome of the community because women weren't coming out of Bump Club with like as much like female empowerment together as moms as they did early on.
But they came up with community.
Yes.
And actually that community is exactly what I think your voice has brought to the table in this new incarnation of Lindsay Pinchuk, because the Jewish community also needs to find each other.
Yes.
We also need to come back together into synagogue spaces, into communal spaces, and realize the strength in numbers.
And I will say what I've seen since October 8th, since that video, and I say October 8th because that was really the day that I came forward with this. I have seen a Jewish community that is stronger than ever. I have seen more camaraderie than ever before. I've seen more tolerance than ever before. I mean, people coming together with different viewpoints, maybe politically or otherwise, but are Jewish, and so they want to support one another. Just by speaking out, I mean, I have come together with people I never thought I would ever be on the radar of. And it's really just because we have this commonality. And now we're finding commonalities in other spaces. And to your point, I think that what the last 8-9 months has shown is that the Jewish community does need to be more of a community. And we do need to set aside some of those differences sometimes and focus on what's important, which is us being alive.
Yeah, sustaining our community for the long term. So you mentioned earlier something that happened to you in the first company experience where you were also a mouthpiece for people who needed you to be their mouthpiece. And you mentioned that you were active speaking out for other communities like Black Lives Matter. Is there now, looking back, a challenge when the organization that you spoke out for is no longer speaking out for you? In the sense that Black Lives Matter, while I also marched on the streets of Detroit with Black Lives Matter, I look at the organization Black Lives Matter today and say, wow, they're not really so friendly to the Jews and to the Israel supportive community. How do you deal with that?
So that's a really good question because it's something I talk about a lot. And, I will always be someone who inherently believes everyone should have equal rights and equal values and whatnot. I think that, though, what this has shown is that I need to evaluate where I put my time and efforts. And maybe that's not the right answer. I don't know. You're a rabbi, so you might be like, I don't know. But, I have felt very hurt by this, very, very hurt by this. I actually had a mom blogger friend, a mom influencer friend in the Black community who, during 2020, I reached out to almost daily. Is this okay to post? I want to do you right. I actually got her involved in Bump Club and Beyond as a spokesperson because I wanted to show more diversity within our community. It was just me being the face. I wanted more diversity in terms of the moms that we were representing. She started working for us, moderating panels for us. I gave her a really great opportunity. I introduced her to brands. I didn't do it because I was looking for something. I did it because that's who I am. I was like, you're right. We should have more diversity. This woman's never once reached out to me, never. And to me, it's really been an eye-opener about maybe how the world sees the Jewish community, and it's more fuel for me to make sure that we are representing ourselves in a positive way. And, just yesterday, my brother said something to me. He was like, do you get nervous wearing your Jewish stars? I wear 2 of them. And I said to him, no. I said, because I'm always polite. I always represent myself proudly. And if I do ever feel a sense of danger, sure, I will tuck them in. But that's very rare. And I just think that this just goes to show we need to be representing ourselves in the best light possible.
And I think you made the point perfectly that it's really not about that other person or that other organization. I don't regret walking on the streets of Detroit in the spirit of the movement of taking care of other human beings. But when push comes to shove, I'm responsible for myself. And in Judaism, there's this phrase, Kol Yisrael Arvim Ze Lezeh. All Jewish people are responsible for one another. When push comes to shove, those other communities are not responsible for us. We are responsible for us. And this is a moment post-October 7th where we have to begin taking care of ourselves against a landslide of negativity, anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism that's happening out there. And I'm so appreciative.
It's a reprioritization.
It is a reprioritization of where we are as a people. And I'm really appreciative of what you've done, where you have used your voice so beautifully to model what it means to take care of your own people. Looking back over this whole journey of careers and a newfound accidental activism, what's the takeaway? What's the most important thing you can share with our listeners?
Be yourself and don't be afraid to be yourself. And I've always said that. I mean, in every single marketing class, every social media class, everything that I've ever done, I have said, be yourself. The joke is always, I always say, I used to walk down the streets of Chicago and people would be like, oh, I have gestational diabetes too, because I was so public about my pregnancies, right? But it really just goes to show that there is no hiding who you are, and you have to be proud of who you are, and you have to speak up for what's right and what's wrong, and be yourself in doing so. When you are yourself, the right people come into your lives. And that's really what the bottom line is.
So be yourself, but also be true to your mission. It's not only knowing yourself, it's knowing where you see yourself going in the future.
Yes.
And doing whatever it takes to get there.
Yes.
Without stepping on other people.
Yes.
So I just I love listening to you talk. I have a memory of you growing up here in Detroit. You weren't here at Temple Israel, but I feel like you were part of the Temple Israel community. And I'm so grateful to have you back here at Temple Israel speaking on behalf of the Jewish people.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely honored. And I was thinking about it today that there is really no Jewish community in the world like the one in Detroit where you can grow up in another temple and walk into another temple and feel as welcomed as you do here. So thank you.
That's so good. So at the end of every podcast, I like to ask my guests one last question. Is there something that you're reading right now or listening to or watching on TV or on the internet that is something you want to share, something that's really moved you?
Yeah, so I actually just read The Little Liar by Mitch Albom, and I know you guys had him here because my mom came and told me all about it and got me a signed copy, and I finally read it. I sat down and read it in one sitting, and I have told everyone that they need to read this book because it's not just about the Holocaust, it's not just about the Jewish community, it is really about what happens when a lie gets perpetuated. And the irony of the situation is that this was written before October 7th and it was published before October 7th, but it is so applicable to what is going on right now with propaganda and the way the world is trying to represent the Jewish community. And everyone must read this book. It is hands down the book of the year.
I could not agree more. The idea that the truth actually matters in a world where we're being told by a variety of sources that there is no such thing as truth. I believe we as Jewish people understand there is a truth, and we have to uphold that truth. I love the book, and I'm thrilled to advertise for Mitch here on the podcast as well. Lindsay, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being who you are in the world. And thank you for supporting so many people who, not only in the Jewish community, but in the community of moms, have used your insight to better their lives.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for that lovely introduction and outro as well. I so appreciate it. I so appreciate you having me here and also for your support and belief in me because that means so much.
I hope everybody who's been listening today has heard something that will help shape the way you are going to act in the world. Until next time, continue living, l'chaim, to life.